Welcome back to the Cow Park Bros podcast. Jason and I are ripe off the Major League Baseball season recap leading up to the All-Star break. And we made a thin reference to a mass shooting that was avoided where the Major League Baseball All-Star weekend was held. According to Colorado police, and I'm referencing an article on Forbes. Colorado police reportedly feared that a Vegas-style mass shooting during the MLB All-Star game after a hotel maid found hordes of guns. And they continue on Forbes. A hotel housekeeper discovered more than a dozen weapons and over 1,000 rounds of ammunition in a Denver hotel room that police feared were going to be used for a potential mass shooting during the 2021 Major League Baseball All-Star game, according to a Denver 7 report. The second time in a week that a hotel worker has thwarted a possible mass shooting in the United States. Citing law enforcement sources connected with the investigation, the local news outlet reported a maid working at the Maven Hotel in downtown Denver, about 2 blocks from Coors Field, where MLB festivities kicked off this weekend, tipped off police after finding a horde of weapons in one of the rooms on Friday night. There were 16 long guns, body armor, and more than 1,000 rounds of ammunition, according to the report. When people reference the Las Vegas-style shooting, they're referring to the 2017 massacre of over 60 people at a Nevada music festival, where the shooter fired rounds from the 32nd floor of a nearby hotel. 3 men and 1 woman were arrested in connection to the hotel discovery on Friday night. This investigation is ongoing. Jason, what the fuck, man?
I'm assuming that was a question, but
when I say what the fuck, it is both a question and a statement. And in this context, it is a question. What the fuck is wrong with people?
So before I go into that, you did mention, the article, and you did mention that this is the second time a possible mass shooting was thwarted. That's because there was a similar situation in Chicago, in which a maid at a hotel also came across a room and discovered, weapons and ammunition and things in the guest room. What's wrong with people, Terrence? When it comes to this topic, that could be a multi-pronged answer. But I guess when it comes to this topic, people just love guns. Well, rephrase, people in the United States love guns. And we'll go into that later as well. But I think that's really what it is. Now, not to say that everybody that likes guns are going to be doing this type of stuff like this. These two people, or these few people, we're going to do. Not everybody that uses guns are looking to do bad stuff. I get that and recognize that. So people don't jump down my throat for anything I'm about to say. But I really just think that's it. I just think our society is ingrained to use guns. I think when it comes to, in a lot of aspects, it's an over-reliance when it comes to using guns. Any little thing that we have an issue with, any type of threat that comes about, if we're having a bad day, like in probably these people's cases, our first thought is, let me go get my gun. I heard a noise outside, let me get my gun. And I recognize that in most cases, people get guns for protection, and that's what they get it for. Which apparently is the number one reason people get guns is protection, then hunting, then sport shooting, which is whatever with that. But all in all, to answer your question, man, I think it's this country's and people in it, their love of and over-reliance on guns.
Okay, you mentioned the Chicago deal, and I did a little bit of research on that. So peep this. This was an Iowa man. He just happens to have a rifle with a laser sight in a hotel room that overlooks a Lake Michigan beach. And this was during the 4th of July weekend, which means it was hella people out there. Okay, not that there's such a thing as a time when that area isn't busy, because he does this at the W in Chicago. And right across the street, Ohio Street Beach, I'm sorry, and Navy Pier, which is a major tourist attraction, COVID or no COVID. The man's name was Keegan Castile, age 32. He was arrested at the hotel and faces 2 counts of aggravated unlawful use of a weapon. Cook County judge on Tuesday ordered him held in lieu of $10,000 bond. So he's released on this past Wednesday, right? He proposes to his girlfriend outside the 18th district headquarters. She appears to accept. So the judge says, I understand the state's proffer and your attorney that you have permission to possess the firearms that you were carrying in the state of Iowa. Judge David Navarro said during a Tuesday hearing. However, clearly, we're not in Iowa. Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore. Jason, that story just gets crazier. I can't decide if that's more crazy than the hotel by Coors Field. I can't decide which scenario is more crazy.
Well, for me, I have a very vivid imagination. So when I heard both of those stories in regards to what was found, in particular, the guy with the laser scope in Chicago, and maybe that one rings out more because it's Chicago. But even in both cases, I'm envisioning the same type of scenario that happened in Las Vegas. I'm imagining a guy in a hotel room looking out his window, getting all his stuff ready to go, knowing what he's about to do. Unfortunately, in Vegas, that person was able to be stopped. And granted, we don't know what these people are going to be doing in these two cities, but the evidence is pretty damning when it comes to, hey, we don't know you're going to do this, but guess what? It pretty much looked like you were getting ready to. Because again, why were you in a hotel room? Or, well, it doesn't really matter, hotel room. Why are you in any public place like that, overlooking, like I said, a heavily populated area with a gun has a laser scope on it, where you can easily start picking people off? What does that sound like to you and anybody else listening to that? That's probably what was going to happen. I'm willing to say that. So for me, I'm envisioning all that same stuff happening that happened in Vegas, in my hometown, Chicago, in Denver, where my fellow Major League Baseball fans are, have, taken over the city in that area because they were looking to enjoy something, have a good time with something. In this case, it was a baseball game. In Vegas, it was a concert. In Chicago, like you said, it's a popular area to go anyway, period, let alone a holiday where people might have been enjoying fireworks celebrations, which hopefully was the day before. But yeah, that's what, to me, when I hear all this stuff, that's what I thought about immediately, is that, and comparing the situation scenarios to that easily could have happened in Denver or Chicago. Thankfully, it did not. Hopefully, whatever crime these people can be convicted of, and they're guilty of, actually, they actually get convicted of it. I know you say, "Oh, boy's bonded out now," which, if he bonded out, hey, if they give him a bond, he can bond out. Hey, good for him. It is very weird that his girlfriend proposed to him.
I mean,
Or rather vice versa. But here's what I wonder. I wonder if that proposal and marriage and acceptance is going to stick, because maybe she might not have known what the hell he was in jail for exactly. So I wonder if she might have changed her mind if she found out, hey, this is my because she probably reads the papers. This is my boyfriend. He got in trouble for this. Maybe this is the type of dude I don't be messing around with. So I don't know. But yeah, that's a very strange story, and very odd timing to propose to, your loved one. But yeah, man, yeah, it's very crazy. And again, we have a whole diatribe of stuff we can probably go into when it comes to guns in America. But that's my initial thought, is the easy comparisons to what happened in Vegas, and the shit. Initially, I was thinking the shame I'd feel that one of our fellow Chicagoans did this, and now that I feel better that he's from Iowa, but in a way that's probably worse, because like excuse me, see, I'm about to be a four-letter jockey like you. But people like this, like you're looking to go somewhere else and cause damage to people. You know, not to do it in your own place is great, but how crazy are you have to be to go somewhere else to do this stuff? You know, it's I don't know. You go ahead and talk, dude. What are your other
Well,
thoughts?
there's a reason why we there's a reason why that judge brought that up. It was like, listen, that shit might be cool where at your hometown, in your home state, but we got different rules here.
Previously, you mentioned mass shootings might have been going up. I found an article on CNN that referenced the number of mass shootings that happened according to the Gun Violence Archive, GVA. And real quick, mass shootings is generally defined as any shooting incident that involves four or more people either being shot, injured, or killed. And so far this year, there have been 325 mass shootings like that. By comparison, last year, 2020, a crazy year in itself, there are around 600. So we're just about on pace to be right there again. Now again, for relative sake, though, I'll go back and say from 2014 to 2019, the only year that was above 400 was 2019. So hopefully that's not a trend going up, but that seems to be something to keep an eye on. And I know Biden's taking efforts to tackle all the violent crimes going on in America right now. But as I said, I think we're too far gone. I don't think there's anything we can do because it's ingrained in our society that we have a right. And I know I'm using air quotes, but even though I know we do have a right to have guns, I think that's just ingrained in our society that we have a right to have guns, and you can't take them away because it's against my Second Amendment. And I'm gonna go into that more later too. But I don't think there's anything that can be done. I think we're too far gone. I think the only thing that can be done is maybe perhaps stiffer punishments for gun crimes, or well, even that's not going to happen either. I was going to say tougher, make it tougher for people to get guns legally, but that's probably not going to happen either. So I think it's too
We
ingrained.
talked about this on a previous episode. We literally the episode where we referenced the FedEx shooting. Okay, that's where we talked about this. And
Episode 1.
yeah, episode Alpha Dog. Yeah. Here's the thing. Having shot a firearm, I get the allure.
Same.
I get the allure. God knows I got enough vices in this life. I get it. I actually enjoy shooting a gun. Now that I've gotten over some of my childhood trauma about it, I get it. I absolutely get it. That being said, we're talking about the individual rights of man versus also the individual responsibilities to the collective. Because I shouldn't say enough, because enough is something you can't deny. I've had enough people who talk to me about the Second Amendment like it's the first fucking amendment tell me that basically this is the only amendment that matters. And that's the problem.
Even more so than freedom of speech, huh? Really?
There's a certain level of indignation that comes with that one too. But there's
Well,
a certain type of Second Amendment proponent that seems to value it so highly that they can't even fucking tell you what the other amendments are. Their literal identity is creating a scenario in which Joe Biden is literally coming to their doorstep with Kamala Harris to take away their gun. I noticed this phenomenon during the Obama years, by the way, where Obama, being the moderate that he is anyway, was like, man, that's not even on my fucking docket. Like, I got too much other shit to worry about, or other special interests in which are driving his agenda. Gun control was never a part of it. Nothing of it. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you can. Anybody can who's listening to the podcast. Nothing about the Obama years says, yeah, we're real serious about gun control. It's like trying to wrestle a fucking pig.
Have you ever
Because
done that?
because no, because I only try to harness my energy and my limited resources on winnable objectives. The fuck do I look like trying to put that on the docket in 2008 if you're the first black president? It's also not going to happen under a Biden administration, by the way. But mass shootings are absolutely going to be more likely to happen now as we're starting to reopen the economy. I believe that was one of my points, actually, when we first started talking about this, is that as we reopen the economy, as we reopen centers of religion and commerce, schools,
Sporting events.
bingo. Crazy didn't take COVID off. It's just we weren't as easy to pick off for about 15 months.
It was lying dormant for 15
Right,
months. Now it's
right,
back.
right. And we're not trying to make light of it here. We're just telling you things that were an issue before COVID are now still going to be an issue after COVID. And it's fucking depressing. Like, we can't even have a good faith argument or discussion about gun safety in this country because and because he hasn't been prosecuted for sexual assault yet, we can actually still reference him and hold him up as a paragon of virtue. Jim Jeffries. Jim Jeffries has an excellent bit about our affinity for guns in this country. And I implore anyone who actually wants to know what our obsession with guns in this country to check out that bit because it is dead fucking on, man. For an Australian, he had us dead to rights, man. He called us out on our shit, to use something that my co-host would say. But that's the real crux of the matter. Is not only is it not only is the current state of affairs, it's not a, as I like to say in sometimes professional scenarios, it's not a bug, it's a feature. This is simply the cost of doing business here in America, as some folks would like to say.
I think when it comes to correcting any issues, I think it's kind of like when people say have a drug problem. They always say the first step to recovery is admitting you have a problem, and I think that can be applied to the gun issue here in America, along with other issues as well. I think as a society, we have to recognize that there is a problem, and I think that's where an issue lies. People don't recognize it as a not the mass shooting part of it. I think everyone recognizes that's an issue, but I think though in general the gun situation in America that's what the issue is. And I agree with you. Yeah, all 8 years Obama was in office. I remember even seeing a meme that was joking where like a picture of Obama sitting down like in the White House somewhere laughing because basically like every eight like each of the 8 years 16, 17, 18, 19, all that stuff like not 16, 17, you know what I mean, 8 through 16. It was always that talk right around every year saying that hey, Obama's going to take away our guns. And he's laughing at that. It's like you said, he has no plans on doing that. No one's trying to take away your guns, you know? At least not during the Obama administration. Probably not going forward, like you said. But there still has to be recognized by society, particularly gun owners and gun lovers, that in general there's a problem with a gun problem in the society. Now I know people are going to say guns don't kill people, people do, and you're right. But my point still remains and stands. Um, I think certain things need to be looked at when it comes to our country's stance legally when it comes to assault weapons and civilians owning them or having them. I think things will be looked at into when it comes to what it takes to actually get a gun, when it comes to background checks, training courses, giving teachers control when it comes to monitoring people in the courses, when it comes to recognizing, okay, who should or shouldn't maybe have a gun, things like that. Um, yeah, I think all those things need to be looked at. Now obviously constitutionally, it's never going to get changed that we have a right to have guns. That's never going to change. No one's going to vote that out. I'm not saying we should or shouldn't. But yeah, I think those two other things I mentioned, I think that's something to be looked at. And there's certain countries around us that have looked into those problems and they don't have the issues we do. Right now, the number of guns in this country, there's more guns in the country than there are people. I know people own guns for protection, mostly, supposedly, wink, wink, quote, air quotes, but more guns than people. Anybody see that as a problem? Especially when there are several people who don't own guns at all.
Right.
But yet the number of guns still outweigh us. What does that tell you? So, yeah, we can go on. I can keep going on this all day, man. But I'll go back to what I was saying is that the over reliance on people on guns, I think needs to stop. This gun society has raised cowards, and not saying everybody that owns a gun or uses a gun is a coward, but that applies to a lot of people. If you're, like I said before, if your first thought at any sign of danger is let me grab my gun, then that label might have to get put on you. I mean, there's a story I found from Fort Worth, Texas, where a group of people got into an argument at a gas station. Things separated. One of the people went home or went to their car, whatever, got a gun, came back and started shooting people. If that's not an excellent example of cowardice and over reliance on guns for no reason whatsoever, that's one. And again, I know that story doesn't apply to everybody, but that's just an example of the cowardice that a lot of people show when it comes to their guns.
Yeah.
That's
Jason,
my word. I'm standing on that, and there you go.
Yeah, Jason, I see what you're saying. I also think that the only way for any meaningful change is you're going to need a coalition of the willing, which is current gun owners who say, look, man, or rather who you have gun owners and non-gun owners and say, man, listen, you regular citizen, the only way I'm ever going to be concerned about you owning a gun is if you do or say certain things that made me think that you are a harm to yourself, you're a harm to your other members of your household, or a harm to the community. Those are only scenarios in which I feel like, okay, might have to confiscate your shit. But we can't say that. We're so entrenched in our sides and our silos, we can't even have that conversation. Like, what I just said should not be controversial, and yet it is. And that is a problem.
Second Amendment, dog.
So that's just my 2 cents on that. All right. That concludes segment 3 of episode 13. Coming up next, we're going to wrap up the show with any final thoughts on Cal Park Bros.